There's a moment in every journey where logic says, stop. When the numbers don't add up, when the path seems too steep, when your own doubts sound louder than your dreams, that's the moment that separates those who wish from those who believe. Belief is not fantasy. It's not pretending that obstacles don't exist. It's understanding that obstacles are not the end, they are the beginning of discovery. Every breakthrough, every innovation, every movement that changed the world began with one person who believed before anyone else did. We are taught to believe after we see the results, but that's not how possibility works. The most powerful belief begins before the proof appears. Think about it. Planes flew because someone believed humans could. The internet connected billions because someone believed knowledge could be shared without boundaries. Every great leap forward started as an unreasonable belief in what could be. When you believe, your behavior changes. You begin to act differently, you speak differently, you plan differently. Belief sharpens focus, it fuels persistence. It gives meaning to failure because every setback becomes data, not defeat. That's how belief turns possibility into progress. But belief isn't built in a single moment of inspiration. It grows through small wins, the daily decisions that reinforce, yes, I can. Each success, no matter how small, strengthens that muscle of possibility until it becomes unshakable. Over time, that belief transforms into confidence, and confidence turns into impact. And here's the beautiful part, belief spreads. When you truly believe, others can feel it. Your conviction gives others permission to believe too. That's how leaders create movements, not by demanding faith, but by demonstrating it. So today, ask yourself what would change if you chose to believe as if anything were possible. What would you build? Who would you become? And how many others would you inspire to believe the same? Because the world doesn't just need dreamers. It needs believers, people who see what's possible long before it's proven. Belief is more than a mindset. It is the silent architect of human behavior. Every decision, every action, every response we make is guided by what we truly believe, not by what we merely know. Knowledge informs us, but belief moves us. It is the force that bridges the gap between intention and action, between potential and performance. When an individual genuinely believes something is possible, that belief begins to shape patterns of thought, emotion, and effort in powerful and measurable ways. At its core, belief functions like an internal compass. It directs attention and energy toward what aligns with our convictions. When someone believes they can achieve a goal, their brain begins to search for evidence and opportunities that confirm that possibility. Psychologically, this process is known as selective perception. The human mind filters and interprets information based on dominant beliefs. If a person believes success is within reach, they notice chances to grow, learn, and improve. Conversely, disbelief blinds them to possibilities that may be right in front of them. Thus, belief is not a passive feeling. It is an active filter that determines how reality is perceived and engaged with. Behavioral science further supports this truth. Studies in psychology demonstrate that belief activates motivation systems within the brain, particularly in the prefrontal cortex and limbic regions that regulate goal-directed behavior. When belief is present, dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and motivation, increases, creating a feedback loop that strengthens perseverance. People who believe that their actions can lead to desired outcomes are more likely to stay consistent, even when faced with setbacks. This is why two individuals with equal skills and resources can produce completely different results. One believes success is possible, while the other assumes it is not worth trying. In an educational or leadership context, belief also determines effort allocation. A student who believes they can master a complex subject approaches learning with curiosity and resilience. They view mistakes as information rather than failure. On the other hand, a student who doubts their ability to succeed often disengages early, adopting avoidance behaviors to protect self-esteem. Similarly, within organizations, employees who feel that their ideas matter demonstrate initiative and creativity. Their belief in contribution fuels innovation. Leaders who cultivate belief within teams tap into this behavioral transformation, converting ordinary performance into extraordinary results. Belief also shapes the emotional tone behind behavior. Emotions are not separate from belief, they are its expression. When belief aligns with positive expectancy, emotions like hope, enthusiasm, and determination follow. These emotions energize the body, improving focus and endurance. The opposite is also true. Disbelief triggers anxiety, hesitation, and inaction. This emotional chemistry explains why people who believe deeply in their purpose radiate confidence and attract others. Their belief produces visible emotional coherence that others can sense and trust. Another dimension of belief-driven behavior is its influence on risk-taking and innovation. Belief acts as a stabilizer in uncertain environments. When individuals or teams believe in a vision strongly enough, they interpret uncertainty as a challenge rather than a threat. This cognitive shift encourages experimentation and creative problem solving. It allows people to move forward even without guarantees. Historically, every major advancement, scientific, technological, or social, was fueled by individuals whose belief in a better possibility outweighed their fear of failure. The Wright brothers, for instance, did not wait for proof that flight was achievable. Their belief shaped every behavioral choice, from how they studied airflow to how they persisted through repeated crashes. Belief has a social dimension. Behavior influenced by belief inspires imitation. Human beings are social learners. We model what we observe. When someone acts with conviction, their belief communicates itself through tone, posture, and persistence. This subtle communication builds credibility and influences others to adopt similar attitudes. In classrooms, teachers who believe in their students' potential unconsciously communicate higher expectations, leading to improved student performance, a phenomenon known as the Pygmalion effect. In leadership, a similar dynamic unfolds. Belief becomes contagious. The leader's conviction transforms team morale, aligning group behavior toward shared goals. From a developmental perspective, belief also interacts with identity. What we repeatedly believe about ourselves becomes internalized as self-concept. Over time, this internal narrative determines behavior across different contexts. A person who believes they are resilient acts resiliently. A person who believes they are powerless behaves accordingly. This shows that behavior is not simply a product of circumstance, but of self-perception. Changing behavior sustainably, therefore, requires a change in belief first. Belief shapes long-term behavioral patterns through reinforcement. Every time a belief-driven action produces a positive result, it strengthens the belief that initiated it. This feedback loop forms a behavioral habit. The more often we act on empowering beliefs, the more naturally those actions become part of who we are. In contrast, when disbelief dominates, avoidance and passivity become habitual. Over time, these habits define our outcomes, reinforcing the original belief, whether positive or negative. Belief does not just guide what we do, it defines how we do it. It transforms effort into persistence, obstacles into opportunities, and fear into curiosity. The person who learns to believe as if anything is possible doesn't just change their thoughts, they rewire their behavior to align with possibility itself. Human beings are wired to seek evidence before commitment. We want proof that our efforts will be worth it, that success is attainable, that our path is safe. Yet, history and psychology both reveal that progress rarely begins with proof, it begins with purpose. Purpose gives birth to belief long before results are visible. It is the internal conviction that drives individuals to act without certainty, to continue without guarantees, and to persist even when the outcome is unknown. Purpose functions as the foundation upon which belief is built. When an individual has a clear sense of why they are doing something, the need for immediate evidence becomes secondary. Purpose provides emotional clarity that sustains action when logic cannot. In contrast, when someone demands proof before they act, they often remain stuck in analysis, hesitation, or fear. Purpose acts as an emotional engine, while proof is merely a checkpoint that arrives later. The relationship between the two is sequential. Belief follows purpose, and proof follows belief. From a psychological standpoint, purpose activates intrinsic motivation, the type of drive that comes from within, not from external rewards. Intrinsic motivation is powerful because it is self-sustaining. When people act from a sense of purpose, their energy is replenished by meaning, not by validation. They don't wait for someone to confirm their value or likelihood of success. They act because the act itself feels right, necessary, or aligned with their values. This is why individuals with a strong sense of purpose often outperform those who rely on external motivation. They are not chasing approval, they are fulfilling intention. Purpose also transforms the way uncertainty is experienced. When goals are fueled by purpose, uncertainty feels like exploration, not danger. Proof-oriented people interpret uncertainty as a reason to stop, whereas purpose-oriented people interpret it as part of the process. This difference in interpretation is crucial for creativity and innovation. Most breakthroughs occur in conditions of ambiguity, moments where there is no proof that something will work. Only those guided by purpose persist through that ambiguity long enough to find solutions. In educational settings, students who understand why they are learning something demonstrate greater engagement and retention than those who study solely for grades. When the why is strong, the how becomes manageable. Purpose gives context to effort. Similarly, in leadership, teams that connect daily tasks to a meaningful mission display higher performance and collaboration. The presence of purpose replaces the need for constant external proof. People stop asking, "Is this working?" and start focusing on, "Why does this matter?" That shift changes the entire culture of action. Cognitively, purpose shapes perception in a powerful way. When individuals focus on meaning rather than proof, their attention expands. They begin noticing connections and possibilities that evidence alone cannot reveal. The brain becomes more adaptive, creative, and resilient. Neuroscientific research indicates that a sense of purpose enhances the brain's executive functions, planning, decision making, and long-term thinking. It aligns mental resources toward a coherent direction, allowing sustained focus even when feedback is scarce or negative. Purpose also transforms the emotional experience of failure. For those who depend on proof, failure feels final, it disproves effort. But for those driven by purpose, failure becomes feedback. It informs rather than defines. They see setbacks as opportunities for refinement, not rejection. This emotional resilience explains why purpose-driven individuals are more likely to recover from adversity and continue pursuing long-term goals. They interpret pain through the lens of meaning, which gives them endurance beyond external motivation. In a social and organizational sense, purpose creates alignment. Proof appeals to the mind, but purpose speaks to the heart. When a group of people share a common purpose, their collective belief becomes stronger than individual doubt. That shared conviction reduces the need for constant justification because everyone understands the deeper why behind their actions. In contrast, organizations that operate only on proof and data often struggle to inspire loyalty. They may be efficient, but they lack emotional resonance. Purpose adds that missing human element. It gives people a reason to believe beyond numbers. Purpose precedes innovation. Before there was evidence that electric vehicles could compete with traditional cars, there were individuals driven by the purpose of creating sustainable transportation. Before there was proof that space travel was achievable, there were visionaries motivated by the purpose of exploration. The pattern repeats across every field. Purpose ignites belief, and belief creates proof through action. Waiting for proof before acting would mean waiting forever. purpose also has moral and ethical dimensions. It helps individuals make choices aligned with values even when external rewards are absent. Proof can justify almost anything when convenience demands it, but purpose grounds behavior in integrity. This alignment between action and inner conviction produces authenticity, a quality deeply respected in leadership, education, and personal growth. People follow those who act from purpose, not those who simply follow evidence. Purpose reshapes identity. When someone connects deeply with their purpose, they stop seeing themselves as a passive observer and start recognizing their role as a contributor. This shift from passive to active identity is essential for growth. It moves the focus from what can I get to what can I give. That orientation toward contribution fuels sustained effort and creates fulfillment independent of outcomes. Proof may confirm success, but purpose sustains it. Purpose over proof is not a denial of logic or evidence. It is the understanding that belief must precede results. It teaches that waiting for proof is a luxury of those who follow, while living by purpose is the courage of those who lead. Progress in any field is not built on sudden breakthroughs, but on a series of small, deliberate steps that accumulate over time. Small wins are the micro foundations of belief and confidence. They create a rhythm of progress that convinces the mind and body that success is not only possible, but already unfolding. In psychological terms, small wins rewire the brain's reward systems, producing incremental motivation that compounds into extraordinary achievement. Human motivation is highly sensitive to progress. When a person experiences even the smallest evidence of improvement, it triggers a release of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure, motivation, and learning. This neurochemical response does not depend on the magnitude of the achievement, but on the perception of movement. A slight improvement in skill, a small acknowledgement of effort, or a minor step toward a goal can create enough emotional momentum to continue forward. The mind begins to associate effort with reward, gradually transforming discipline into desire. Small wins are critical because large goals can often feel abstract and distant. When the outcome seems too far away, motivation fades and self-doubt grows. Breaking ambitions into smaller, achievable milestones provides the brain with tangible evidence of progress. Each milestone reinforces the belief that I can do this. Over time, this belief becomes internalized as confidence. This is not just emotional reassurance, it is a cognitive restructuring process in which the brain learns to trust its own capability through repeated success experiences. Educational psychology has long recognized this principle. Learners who track incremental progress, such as mastering one concept at a time or improving slightly with each attempt, develop stronger persistence and greater intrinsic motivation. They are less likely to experience burnout because progress feels attainable. Teachers who design lessons that emphasize small victories, such as understanding one formula or completing one paragraph successfully, nurture growth-oriented thinking. The same principle applies in leadership and personal development. Progress must be seen and celebrated regularly to sustain belief. The concept of small wins also aligns with the Kaizen philosophy, a Japanese principle of continuous improvement. Kaizen emphasizes that consistent, small refinements in process, behavior, or mindset lead to long-term excellence. In this system, the emphasis is not on radical transformation, but on sustained evolution. Each improvement builds upon the last, creating a compound effect where modest changes produce significant results. This is how world-class organizations maintain innovation and quality through a daily culture of small victories rather than occasional revolutions. From a behavioral standpoint, small wins function as reinforcement loops. Each success acts as a cue for further positive behavior. When the brain perceives that effort leads to tangible improvement, it reduces psychological resistance to action. The fear of failure lessens and curiosity increases. This mechanism explains why people who celebrate incremental progress are more consistent in habits like exercise, studying, or creative work. They are not relying on willpower alone. They are leveraging reinforcement psychology to sustain behavior naturally. Emotionally, small wins build resilience. Large ambitions are often accompanied by long periods of uncertainty and delay. Without moments of validation, individuals may lose confidence or question their path. Small wins act as checkpoints that restore emotional energy. They remind people that progress is happening, even when the ultimate result is not yet visible. This recognition transforms frustration into patience. It creates psychological safety, the feeling that one's efforts are meaningful and effective, even when the destination remains distant. In team dynamics, celebrating small wins fosters collective belief. Teams that acknowledge minor successes regularly maintain higher morale and collaboration. It helps individuals feel seen and valued, reinforcing the shared conviction that the group is moving forward. This is particularly important in long-term projects, where visible results may take months or years to appear. Small wins maintain engagement by connecting daily work to the larger vision. A culture that values incremental progress keeps motivation alive through recognition, not just results. Small wins also play a vital role in cognitive reframing. When challenges feel overwhelming, focusing on the next actionable step reduces anxiety and promotes clarity. The human brain is not designed to process vast, uncertain tasks effectively. It performs best with immediate, manageable goals. By converting an intimidating objective into smaller segments, individuals shift from a state of paralysis to one of action. Each completed step diminishes the perception of difficulty, replacing fear with control. This process cultivates a mindset of competence, a belief that I can handle this, no matter how large the overall challenge. The psychology of small wins is also deeply connected to habit formation. According to behavioral research, habits form more effectively when they are anchored to small, repeatable actions. For instance, committing to writing one paragraph a day is more sustainable than aiming for a completed book in a month. The small daily act not only builds skill but also constructs identity over time. The individual begins to see themselves as a consistent writer. Belief, therefore, becomes a product of repetition reinforced by evidence rather than wishful thinking. In leadership and coaching, focusing on small wins builds credibility. When leaders highlight progress instead of perfection, they shift the organizational mindset from fear-based performance to growth-based learning. It signals that improvement, not flawless execution, is the true measure of success. This belief system encourages experimentation and risk-taking, both of which are essential for innovation. When people are not afraid of failing, they are more likely to discover better ways of doing things. Small wins thus act as both emotional and strategic leverage in collective progress. Ultimately, the power of small wins lies in their ability to transform belief into behavior and behavior into identity. Each win becomes a piece of evidence that strengthens self-trust. Over time, those pieces form a narrative, the story of someone who keeps moving forward, one step at a time. The process is quiet, often unnoticed, but deeply transformative. Through small wins, individuals learn that possibility is not something to wait for. It is something to build incrementally through consistent, purposeful action. Belief is not an isolated personal quality. It is a social force that extends beyond the individual and shapes the perceptions, emotions, and actions of others. When one person truly believes in a vision, an idea, or a purpose, that conviction radiates outward, influencing those who come into contact with it. This influence operates not through authority or instruction, but through authenticity and emotional contagion. People are drawn to certainty. They are naturally influenced by those who project clarity of purpose and confidence in possibility. Belief, therefore, becomes one of the most powerful tools of leadership, education, and transformation. The science of influence shows that human beings are deeply responsive to social cues, especially those linked to confidence and conviction. The brain contains mirror neurons that subconsciously replicate the emotions and attitudes of others. When a person expresses genuine belief, others begin to mirror that emotional state, experiencing a subtle shift in their own mindset. This process explains why enthusiasm is contagious and why skepticism can spread just as easily. The emotional tone of belief expressed through language, body posture, and tone of voice communicates trustworthiness and direction even before words are understood. In this sense, belief functions as a form of nonverbal leadership. In educational environments, teachers who believe in their students' abilities influence outcomes in measurable ways. The Pygmalion effect, a well-documented psychological phenomenon, demonstrates that higher expectations from authority figures lead to higher performance from learners. When students sense that their teacher genuinely believes in their potential, they internalize that expectation and adjust their behavior to meet it. The belief of the teacher becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy in the growth of the student. This principle extends to coaching, mentoring, and parenting. Belief becomes the invisible framework upon which others build their confidence. In organizational and leadership contexts, belief acts as the emotional anchor that aligns teams around a shared purpose. A leader who believes deeply in a mission creates a sense of stability in uncertain times. Even when external circumstances are unpredictable, that leader's conviction communicates assurance. People follow belief because it provides psychological safety, it reduces ambiguity, and gives meaning to collective effort. Teams that sense their leader's faith in the vision become more willing to take risks, collaborate, and innovate. Their shared belief fosters unity, which is stronger than any procedural rule or incentive system. The transmission of belief also occurs through storytelling. Stories are vessels of belief. They allow individuals to translate conviction into experience. When a person communicates their belief through narrative, they invite others to see the world through their perspective. A well-told story activates empathy, creating emotional alignment between speaker and listener. This alignment is what turns information into inspiration. Facts may inform, but belief conveyed through story transforms understanding into commitment. In this way, belief becomes a bridge from logic to emotion, from intellect to purpose. From a psychological perspective, belief influences others by reshaping perceived norms. People often look to the confidence of others as a signal for what is acceptable or achievable. When someone publicly demonstrates belief in a challenging goal, they redefine the limits of possibility for their community. This mechanism is evident in social movements, where a few individuals' unwavering belief in justice or change inspires masses to act. The initial believers create a new standard of courage and possibility that others adopt as their own. Belief, therefore, not only influences behavior but can transform cultural boundaries. Belief also impacts communication patterns. Individuals who speak from belief use language that reflects certainty and direction. Their words are active, future-oriented, and emotionally charged. This kind of communication engages both the rational and emotional centers of listeners, producing motivation rather than mere agreement. People do not just listen to what is said, they respond to how it feels. A message grounded in belief carries emotional resonance that pure logic cannot replicate. This resonance lingers in memory and drives action long after the conversation ends. In team development and collaboration, belief strengthens trust. When members of a group witness consistent belief from one another, they begin to rely on shared conviction rather than external validation. This mutual faith creates interdependence, the sense that everyone is contributing to a common vision. It transforms competition into cooperation. Over time, belief-based collaboration produces greater creativity, as individuals feel safe to express ideas without fear of failure. Trust grows not from promises or policies, but from the collective assurance that we believe in this together. Belief also influences through modeling. People learn more from observation than from instruction. When someone demonstrates belief through consistent action, showing up with energy, persistence, and purpose, others begin to internalize that pattern of behavior. This form of influence is subtle but enduring. It is not persuasive rhetoric that changes others, but visible consistency between words and actions. Authentic belief is seen in persistence during adversity, optimism in uncertainty, and calm under pressure. Those who witness such steadiness begin to emulate it, often unconsciously. Emotionally, belief gives others permission to hope. In environments dominated by fear, doubt, or failure, the presence of a believer introduces psychological possibility. It signals that improvement or success is still within reach. This emotional influence can reignite motivation in those who have lost it. Belief, in this sense, acts as a light source in dark situations, not by removing difficulty, but by revealing a path forward. That is why individuals who carry strong belief often become natural sources of encouragement. Their presence alone alters the emotional climate of a room or team. Belief influences others because it creates meaning. People do not follow instructions, they follow significance. A shared belief turns work into purpose, struggle into growth, and results into legacy. When individuals understand not just what they are doing, but why it matters, their engagement deepens. The influencer of belief helps others connect daily actions to larger values. This alignment between meaning and activity transforms ordinary efforts into purposeful movement. Through belief, leaders, teachers, and change-makers transform others not by control, but by inspiration, proving that conviction, more than authority, is the most powerful form of influence.